Yo, what's going on, guys? It's time. Fish Fest is here. It is the moment that all of the fishers around the world have been waiting for. The most hyped up event we've had in a while. Hyped up update in general. And it's time for that update review. And the main question is, did it live up to the hype, right? Oh my gosh, did it live up to the hype? Did Fish Fest live up to the expectations that we had for it? And in this video, more specifically, I had for it. And the answer is pretty unclear. There are a lot of things that I like about this update. It is definitely one of the biggest updates they've done in a while. And I applaud the development team for being able to deliver this with like hardly any bugs at all. Barely any bugs. But it's time to get into the nitty gritty. And I'm going to be outlining the main premise of the event, the rods, and then maybe a couple other things that they added, and I'll get into why I'm a little bit disappointed with FISCHFEST. So, first things first, obviously we have a massive new island. It is crazy. There's so much stuff that you can interact with. I don't think we've had an event on this scale before. It is definitely one of the biggest events we've had, and there are a lot of things that you can do here. First off, you have 4 main NPCs that you can come back to that have their own separate mechanics. We have the bonfire dude who you turn into you give him a driftwood. It's kind of like the witch's pot. Give him a driftwood, you put it in the fire, talk to him, he'll give you a daily reward. So you have like a little daily rewards thing there. You have the main quest line from Captain Conch. This isn't one of the 4 NPCs I was mentioning though. I'll get into that in a bit. We have the beach volleyball referee. We have the sandcastle referee. And we have the jet ski referee at the port over there. So these main NPCs are like the main thing you can keep coming back to in the game. We have these extra mini games and they add a lot more personality and charm to the event rather than, just having a giant fishing area where you're just going to be, grinding here in this one spot the entire time. Now with all of these new characters obviously comes with a lot of new quests. As you can see to the left of me, there's a new quest for a Dave Rod skin, which I might do, but I'm definitely not going to be like speedrunning it, so to speak. Then we have all of the other quest NPCs whose quest I've already done, and then we have our new currency, sun shells. And the way that you get sun shells, pretty self-explanatory. You do quests and you catch fish, you turn in the fish for sun shells, and that's your main way of getting the currency after you complete the quest. And so in terms of what you can spend sun shells on, you have a new limited time tiki drink merchant here. It's literally just a cute arrow. And then you have this sun shell merchant over here. And she sells most of the stuff that you're going to spend your sun shells on. So as you can see, I already bought everything that is like a one-time purchase. And then we have Tropical Sun Totem, 3 relics, beach chair, and the coral pearls. So yep, this is the main outline of the event. And now it's time to get into terms of the actual content. So let me come back over here because we have a lot of stuff in this event that has to do with Captain Conch. This is the main way you're going to progress in the event. It took me like an hour to figure out that you had to start the quest line here. So yeah, that was a little dumb of me, but I did find out, hey, there's a guy you talk to. This is the main quest line. And so I was doing the quest lines like normal, and I finished all of them in one day. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's a big problem because obviously I'm someone who plays Fish a lot. So it makes sense that, someone like me would probably complete the quest so fast. My main issue with this is the fact that this is the main quest line, right? It's a lot easier compared to previous main quest lines we've had before. In Valentine's 2, which was the last major event in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, we had the duo quests, which were much more different. Unlike a somewhat story-driven questline like Captain Conch, we had basically bounties that you'd have to do with your Valentine, and that was how you would get your stuff. In FISCHFEST 2, the main quest was the Santa Claus quest, which would allow you to unlock Santa's Miracle and the Maelstrom, right? And I think Captain Conch's quests were way easier than, and they just seemed kind of uninspired, honestly. I think that this event is just a little bit too much like the other events. because I mean Captain Conch's quest is just so much like Sansa's quest from FISCHFEST 2, except there was just like a lot less traveling, and honestly some of the quests like there's not really a goal here in terms of like a narrative. We just kind of like catch the fish he wants us to catch, and then all of a sudden there's like an evil flame slasher in the castle that we have to take care of. And I mean, the quests were really easy to complete. The only one I'm struggling on isn't even related to Captain Conch. It's for one of the other rods, which I'll get into later. Overall, I think Captain Conch's quest line is pretty good. I just think that the quest is a little too easy, and that's a complaint you're going to hear me saying a lot later in the video, because now I'm going to be getting into the other tasks you have to do for all the rods here. First off, we have the purchasable rods. We have the pool noodle rod, which is 1000 sun shells. Then we have back over here we have the creamsicle rod and the lemonade serenade. And I'll get into complaints about that too later. And then outside of the purchasable rods, we have rods you get through quest lines and the mini games. For example, you get the beach ball rod from the volleyball referee, and you get a part of the sandcastle caster from the sandcastle minigame, but the sandcastle caster has a bit of a larger quest line. And the floaty rod, which I believe you get from competitive Carter for doing all the minigames. I think it's a little sad that this rod is just so much stronger than the rods you get from the main quest line and the Lemonade Serenade. This thing has one of the craziest passives in the entire game. Basically the Ruinous Oath, but with no downside. Just absolutely crazy. After the floaty rod, we have the last rod here you get from Bonfire Blake after you turn in a driftwood on the 7th day. I don't think anyone knows how strong that rod is apart from testers and maybe a few content creators. Those are the rods that we have this update. And now this is where my complaint comes in again. The rods were just too easy to get. Honestly, like, I'm not complaining at all about the mini games here. I'm very glad that we're actually doing other stuff besides just catching fish for quests, right? And, you know, we're interacting with the map, we're interacting with NPCs and all that. Like, I'm glad we have all that, but it was just too short. I think that all of the quests were a little too easy, and the rewards are underwhelming because most of these rods are just not good at all. I could go over the passives of each one of them, but all you have to know is basically most of them have a passive that relates to progress speed, and then it gives a FISCHFEST mutation, and that's about it. With the exception of the Lemonade Serenade, and I really don't like how they went about this with the Lemonade Serenade, because the way you get it, you complete the main quest line, then you just have to buy 20 lemonades, and then you go to the shell merchant over there, and then you just buy it and you're done. Like what are we doing? I don't think that an instrument rod could be reduced to this, where you just wait to claim the rewards. There's no work that you have to do at all, and this rod is just not good at all. It's basically just a knockoff version of all the Serenade rods that we've gotten before, and I just don't really see any reason to get this. Besides, you know, getting like a limited rod and having it be like a little trophy and all that, there's just no reason to get it. And I think personally that for FISCHFEST, there's just very little to grind for. I don't see any reason to really grind for this event besides the relics. Because limited relics, you know, it's always important to get those per usual. And I think even from the perspective of a beginner getting these rods, I still don't think it's very worth it. In terms of progression, we've already found out all the best rods for beginners to get to progress the game as quickly as possible. And I think my main question here is, who exactly are these rods for? Are these for beginners? Because it's not really a good investment to go out of your way to get these limited rods if you're a beginner. And if you're a player who's like decently mid-game, there's no benefit. From a purely utilitarian perspective, there's no benefit to getting these new rods. Except for one thing. There is one thing that these rods are really good for, and it's this, the Masterline passive. The thing about Masterline is that it can roll limited rods. As you can see, I just rolled Nate's Blade. So, if you can get a crazy passive from one of the limited rods in FISCHFEST, because as bad as they are by themselves, they do have really good passives. If you roll it on Masterline, they're very good. They were bugged at first, but they fixed them already. So I will say there is one really good benefit that you can get from getting these rods, but honestly, who even really uses Masterline for anything other than just flexing? It's just it's just like cosmetic on top of cosmetic, really, because even if the passive is really OP, you can't control which rods you get rolled, and that's assuming you even have the rod, which like majority of people don't have Masterline, and the majority of people who have Masterline probably also didn't want to grind out the mastery for it, because it is a pretty boring grind, I would know. And so that's where we move on to the one part of the update that I do actually really like, and it's this shoreline mechanic right here. And I might get a bit of hate for it, but I really like the shoreline mechanic because even though it's mostly RNG and you're just collecting stuff that pops up here, I do like that there's a good alternative to fishing, because the main problem Fish has had recently is that it's kind of more of the same stuff where you kind of just, you know, you have to get a mutation on something or you have to catch just something. It's usually to do with fishing. My only problem with the shoreline mechanic is the fact that at the end of the day, it's still RNG. And, you know, as much as I want to enjoy it and I want to like it, it still kind of has the same problem. It's kind of just fishing with less steps, actually. You just have less control of what you're getting. And I think that there's a lot of potential to be had with this mechanic. I think they should try to expand on this by using maybe panning or shoveling or even metal detecting. I think there's like a lot of things that can be done with this, but just to see it be reduced to, oh, an item appears on here, you can collect it, and it's basically all RNG whether or not you get something good or not, is just kind of sad to see. I mean, I feel like there's so much more that can be done with this shoreline mechanic, and it's just weird to see. It's just weird to see how everything's just a repeat. Like, this whole entire event can be just labeled as like a repeat of other things, which is ironic because one of the main reasons people like Fish and one of the reasons that I like Fish is because of the originality. You know, we have original rod concepts. I mean, the venue takeover was one of the best updates they've ever come out with. Look at the brilliant things developers come up with, and the reason that I'm so hard on them for this update is because I know that there's a lot more that can be done here, and I see the direction that they're trying to go in, but in terms of execution, they're falling short, if that makes sense. Because see, what I do like about this shoreline mechanic is that you're fishing to grind the sun shells, right? Because just like previous events, you know, the way that you get sun shells is by fishing, so whatever helps you make money the fastest is going to help you make sun shells the fastest. So, you know, you're basically just going to stick with the same meta. You're going to use Soul Reaper, you're going to use Noise Form, you're going to use Olympian Godbreaker, whatever helps you get money the fastest, and you're not using any of the limited rods, which is just kind of weird. And with the shoreline mechanic, and this is why I think it has so much potential, is you're basically able to pull from a greater pool of rewards, if that makes sense. And you can get things from the shoreline that you can't get by fishing. For example, these coral pearls that I just picked up, it's an incredibly valuable bait. I basically just picked up 1,500 sun shells worth of bait right there on the shoreline. And here I can just pick up a regular shell, which I can then use to turn into a bunch of different buffs. And honestly, on the low key, things might have to get nerfed soon. These things are actually really good for making money, and they're good for a lot of quests, and I'm surprised that the devs have let shells go by for this long. I'm surprised they haven't gotten nerfed. But yeah, I think that there's so much cool stuff that you can do with this, but again, it's kind of just a repeat because I didn't play the first FISCHFEST when it came out because that was the dark ages of Fish, but I did my research, and yeah, this shoreline mechanic is a returning thing. It's something that they've done before to keep in with the spirit of the previous FISCHFEST, which, you know, even though hardly anyone was around for it, I'm pretty sure the people who were around for it are glad to see that it's making a return, and I'm glad that it's making a return too, but I do think that it can be better, and that's the main point I'm trying to get in my video. I don't think FISCHFEST is a bad update per se. I think it's definitely better than the previous updates we've been getting. I think FISCHFEST is the best update we've gotten since the venue takeover. And that is quite a lot of updates, because ever since the venue takeover we had the new enchantments, We had a bunch of new hunt fish come out. We got Cruise, we got the Shady Bazaar, and maybe one day I'll return to the absolute atrocities they committed against the trading economy. But the main problem that we have is that you might look at this and say it's a good update. Then, you know, after you complete it, you're not going to be playing anymore. And I'm not necessarily saying that that it's bad. I just think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think there was a lot more things that they could have done. And just so I'm not being purely negative here, I'll share some of my ideas on what I think they should have done. So, I think that for the Lemonade Serenade, I think that instead of doing a 5-hour long wait for the Lemonade Serenade, we could have a quest similar to Noise Form, but instead of using existing rods that you get normally, you would use the event rods that you've obtained. For example, what if we used the floaty rod to catch an Olympian devil? Or what if there was other exotic fish that you could catch here, or summer variants similar to how they did in the St. Patrick's event, summer variants of existing hunt fish, and we'd have to catch those with limited rods, the limited rods that we've been given. See, like, that's a pretty simple way of doing it, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a hard quest, right? Because we know that the Lemonade Serenade is only going to be here for a very short amount of time compared to other instrument rods that we've had. So I think that they could have just done an easy quest line that uses the existing rods that we have in FISCHFEST, and that would have been a perfectly good quest for it, because as it stands right now, I don't think anyone likes just having to wait for something like AFK rewards or Macarene. People don't like to do that. Some people like it, but most people don't, and me included. I don't like Macarene. That's why I liked the aquarium update. That's why I like these quests, and that's why I like the shoreline mechanic. I like that they're making us do stuff that requires us to interact, and not just, you know, cast and then, you know, do whatever you want. Something that can just be macroed, and it's just a repeatable task that you end up doing over and over again. I'm glad that we have all of this interactable stuff, and this is what I want to see more of. And so, to go back to my previous point with the Serenade, I don't think that just going over here every 15 minutes and buying a piece of lemonade and then wait 5 hours later and then you just get the rod, you don't do any kind of quests or anything besides the Captain Conch quest, obviously, is pretty disappointing. I'm not asking the devs to have some great grand spectacle and like a whole entire new area specifically just for like this giant elusive hunt for this unbelievable new instrument rod. I'm not asking for all that. I just think that we should avoid bringing anything reminiscent of waiting here and not really having any other goals or anything to do, if that makes sense. And to end it off on a good note, I really like the companion. The companion is just absolutely brilliant. This is perfect. This is exactly kind of reward that I want from FISCHFEST, because the thing about the companion is obviously you can use it with whatever you want, and this is something actually useful you're going to be able to use outside of the event. I wouldn't even be complaining if they nerf this thing, because guess what? If they nerf it, there's still going to be uses for it. It's not going to be completely irrelevant. For example, if you were to take something like the Tryhard Rod, when they nerfed the Tryhard Rod, this thing was basically over because the only appeal of it was that it was the best money making rod in the game. But then once they removed the piercing enchants on it, no one uses it anymore. It's not the fact that the Tryhard Rod's bad at making money, it still makes a crap ton of money. But it's the fact that if it's not the best at something, then it's not going to be used. And again, I'm bringing that utilitarian perspective because that's what drives me to say if these updates are bad or not. That's my biggest deciding factor in when I determine whether these updates are good or not. Because when you look at these things from a utilitarian perspective, if this thing doesn't have a niche and its only use is in a niche that it's not the best at, then it's effectively useless. I'll give you another example. The resourceful rod. This rod on paper is a bad rod. Like, why would you ever go for it, right? But it has a niche. It has specific uses. This rod doesn't have the best stats. It has horrible stats. But you might still find yourself using it for different reasons, like limited baits. You have a limited bait and you don't want to use all of it. Or you have a bait that you just don't have a lot of, like the Starlight Worm, and you want to improve the effects of the Starlight Worm. Like, this thing's really useful grinding crew rating because you use the Starlight Worm on it, you go fish for the oakling, the oakling's going to turn into like a 1 in 4 chance. This thing's a really good rod because it fulfills a niche, fills a specific niche, and it's really good at it. And that's something that none of these limited rods are going to be able to do, and I don't think they should be able to do them. But I do think that there's more force that can be warranted for these, if that makes sense. I think at the end of the day, the rods should have been way harder to get. That way there would be more allowance for things like, you know, good mutations or good passives. And an example I'll provide for this is the Bat Whisperer rod. I mean, obviously this thing isn't as good as it used to be because it gets outclassed by Toxin Burst, right? The Bat Whisperer rod, you could still use it for other stuff if you wanted to, you know? It's not going to be the same thing like the Deucicar rod or other Halloween rods. What makes this one special is the unique passive it has. And for all these FISCHFEST rods, their only passive is just gaining progress. Besides Eliminate Serenade, and that one's just a repeat of other Serenades that we've already had that are just way, way better and completely outclass it. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about FISCHFEST. In terms of what I think about the update, despite how negative I might sound throughout the entire video, I think FISCHFEST shows that the devs are a little bit misguided on how to handle limited events. And I shared my ideas on how I think they should improve them, and whether or not they want to take my advice is completely up to them, and I won't hold it against them. At the end of the day, I just think that there was more to be done here in terms of gameplay, because I'm not complaining at all about how it looks or like the grandeur of it. Like obviously this island's beautiful, and you know, shout out to the map designers, shout out to all the modelers, all the people who work tirelessly to bring this kind of stuff to life. But in terms of the actual gameplay, there's more to be done here. So, a final verdict on FISCHFEST 2, 7 out of 10. By the way, guys, feel free to join my crew if you want. We're just a casual crew. We're not going to be hardcore grinding because the rating's been paused right now. You only get crew rating from quests. But yeah, join my crew, guys. Let me know if you're interested in me making guides, or if you want more opinion-based content like update reviews, because I'm still going to be doing update reviews. But if you want me to make videos on like, gosh, if you want me to make videos on like ranking all the rods, or guide videos, or whatever you think the content creator side of Fish needs more of, I'll see what I can do. But yeah, final verdict, 7 out of 10. And to leave it on a good note, this Starfish companion is just absolutely peak. I hope that they had a skin for this. But yeah, that's all for now, guys. I'll have to see you later.